Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about nostalgia and how overall it can be, a detriment, an obstacle, a handicap, right? We're all guilty of surrendering to nostalgia from time to time because, it just feels good. But overall, I think that nostalgia, this this phenomenon that is nostalgia, it has to go. We have to free ourselves from nostalgia because, even though it makes us feel good, even though it can help us cope, I don't think that adults should rely on it so much, right? I mean, in the past, at least in the past decade, there has been this, resurgence, renaissance, insane addiction to nostalgia for everything, especially for nerd shit, especially for cheap entertainment, especially for, nerd hobbies and, the past, childhood fancies, right? And I'm a victim of this. I have done this in the past. I'm not better than anybody. I've committed this a lot of times when I was younger. But now I see that it was a mistake on my part, because this is not how it should be. This is not how adults should behave, right? I've made a lot of videos talking about this. Your childhood is over. You have to grow the fuck up, basically, right? And I was somebody that lived in the nostalgia of better times. When I was younger, I used to, fantasize a lot about the nostalgic past, as a way to cope with, hardships. And that's fine, but, it's just so easy. It's just so cheap. You have a bad day, you can't handle it, so you rely on immersion in, when you were 9-year-old and you were playing video games or whatever the fuck. Like, I've seen this, I do a lot of research on this topic, and, I see a lot of people today that are, basically infantile, juvenile. Not to, toot my own horn here, but it's just not dignified in a way, And I'm not telling people not to have fun or, have, hobbies. But still, it's like it has been exaggerated to an extreme here. That's not healthy. People, grown-ass adults playing with Legos and grown-ass adults, loving Mario, for example. Mario Kart. I mean, yeah, it was fun, but, bro, you have to progress. You have to leave certain stuff behind. Okay? You have to leave things behind. Your childhood is over. Okay? There are certain stages in life. Certain stages. And after you have graduated from these stages, I think that they should be buried. Buried. Right? Nostalgia has overwhelmed everything. It has infiltrated everything. And this is just my my interpretation. I think that why gaming is so so global nowadays, so ubiquitous, so everywhere, so popular. I think it is because people engage in gaming, and I mean adults, they treat it so seriously as a profession, as a serious matter, is because by doing this, somehow psychologically, they are transported back when they were 9 year old, and they were playing some goofy game with their friends or cousins or whatever, right? When I was a little kid in the summer, this is all I did. I would play video games with my cousin, and it was a blast. But I moved on, right? It was a great time, but I was a kid, and now that shit is over. I had to leave it behind, you know, and I could just sit all day and just remember, back then it was better, right? A nostalgia trip, right? It's just not dignified. And this applies to everything, older people, they get trapped in the nostalgia of, a better time when they were younger or whatever, when they did this or they had that, and it's just, it's over. I guess this is my overall message to anybody who still, relies on nostalgia so much. A long time ago, I used to rely on the nostalgia when I had a best friend, and we would do everything together, and it was a blast, and we had a lot of fun together. But after I got older, we separated, of course. That's just how life works sometimes. But I still relied on the nostalgia of those times to get by, to survive and keep my sanity, right? And, now that I'm older, I look back on those times and I'm just shaking my head. It's understandable, but it's not the way, it's almost disgraceful, for adults to behave in this manner, right? Sometimes you have to bury your past, even though it was a good one. You cannot rely on stuff from when you were a kid. You cannot rely on the memories of, previous relationships because they felt good or whatever. Cherish a few memories, fine, but just don't be so immersed in the past. The past is the past. It's done. It's over, right? You can be, become an addict of the past, of nostalgia. Remember when we used to watch this show, I used to be probably the biggest Dragon Ball fan ever. And a couple of years ago, listen, I haven't watched the original Dragon Ball since first grade. Okay, I'm in my 30s now, but a couple of years ago, I just said, you know what, fuck it, let's watch it. And I couldn't stand the first episode of the original Dragon Ball. I couldn't watch it. It was just, I don't know. I was cringing. And I think that's a good sign, even though it's a great show. It has its qualities. I think it's a good thing that I couldn't stand to watch it anymore, because it is a demonstration that I have moved on to better things. Certain things are for certain moments in time in a person's life. I would suggest that it isn't healthy or good for, I don't know, a 40-year-old man to play with toys, for example, or be obsessed with a show about ponies, right? I don't know. Just an example, right? I don't think it's healthy. I'm not judging anybody, right? But, I don't know. Nostalgia can lead people to a dark road, a dark path, where, they remain, infantilized. This is what nostalgia does to people. They get a high from, the feels that were once there and aren't anymore, right? People get high on the past, bro. Right? Remember when, I don't know, fucking Star Wars first came out? It's like, no, I moved on. Not to say that maybe it's not a good show or movie or whatever, but, Sometimes it's a good thing to move on. It's not a good idea to carry all the baggage from your youth, from your childhood, and people are still obsessed with, I don't know, shit they did when they were fucking 7 years old, right? You know, trivial stuff, the banal, mediocre, you know? And I'm not judging anybody. I used to be this way. I used to rely heavily on nostalgia to function properly, right? But that's not the way. That's not the way. I think we should have, the mental fortitude to just accept the fact that maybe the good times, the innocent times are over, and maybe whatever show or movie or whatever you loved back in the day, there will never be something like it again, and maybe your favorite show isn't as good as you assumed it to be, right? Sometimes you have to just let go of things. I think that is natural. That is the natural progression and procession of life, of human life. Sometimes things just don't work out. Relationships, sometimes they just break. People separate. And you might cherish the memories of those better, happy times, but you shouldn't fetishize it. And I think this is the proper word to explain what's happening. People have fetishized nostalgia. They have fetishized prior events in their life. They have fetishized memories and the happy moments. Fetishize them, the opium. The memories of the past, the happy memories of the past are now a drug, right? Because now, being an adult in the present, in this environment, it ain't looking too good. It ain't looking too good. You have nothing to look forward to, so naturally, you go back and you immerse yourself in the past. Remember when you were 15 years old and you had a lot of friends and life was just so swell and you just had a good time, and boy, oh boy, life was so easy. But then, you got older, and you had to get a job, and, what can you do? You relive, the happy moments of your past to cope, I guess. And I used to do this, but it's not ideal. It's not ideal. Nostalgia, whatever it is, I don't care what it is, right? Nostalgia has to go. Nostalgia has to go, right? And sometimes it is difficult, right? I had to let go of a lot of things that I used to love, this expression, sometimes you have to kill your darlings. It's appropriate. It's proper. Only if you sacrifice what you love most, that is how you gain, some room to I don't know, evolve, mature, whatever you want to call it, right? Nostalgia has to go. Nostalgia is not good for people. Nostalgia has the power to keep people trapped in a stagnation of the mind, of the soul, of emotion, and it's no wonder why people have been, childish for so many years. People are childish because they have trapped themselves in the feel-good aspect of nostalgia, And, I think this applies to pretty much everything nowadays. Why people why people are so serious about memes and why they're so obsessed with, anime and video games and lame ass shows and everything else. It is because by doing this, it's almost as if you are reliving past events that were far greater and they were happy. So I guess maybe this is the explanation. I'm no expert, but I do observe. I am an observer. And this to me seems logical. Why people treat mundane things like, I don't know, Star Trek or whatever, it is because it reminds them of prior times that were amazing, that were so blissful and joyous, right? This is why nostalgia exists, right? And you can get lost in nostalgia. You might not come back from it. A lot of people spend the entirety of their lives submerged in the nostalgia of, when they were younger, right? And I guess, fine, right? Everybody is entitled to live their life how they want it. But it's just so, I don't know, I guess it's pathetic. I mean, this is just me, okay? To me, it's pathetic. And I used to be like this, pathetic. Nostalgia is so prevalent nowadays that, whenever people get together, all they talk about is things from the past, things that happened in the past, It doesn't matter if they were good or bad, they had an intensity, of emotion. Either it was positive or negative, but it was, memorable. It had a punch, it was raw. And people talk about, remember when we went to that trip? I used to do this. You see, I went to a couple of trips when I was, 18, 19 in Europe, and it was a blast. And for years afterwards, with this friend of mine, this is all we used to talk about. Remember when we went to Italy and Poland and etc.? We had a blast, and for years afterwards, this is what we talked about. We daydreamed about, these nostalgic moments of the past, of prior events, of a prior time, because we had such, happy moments. And we spent years talking about this, and this is what people do nowadays. Remember the first time you played this video game? Remember the first time you read this comic book? And they just, I don't know, I guess they get the happy chemicals in their brains, right? And makes them feel good and fine, whatever. But I guess, I don't know. I think we should be mature enough, and we have to have, the mental fortitude to move on. And we should be able, as adults, to handle the shit of the present and the shit of the future that is in store for us without relying on, remember when we used to play basketball when we were 12 or whatever? That time, that timeline, that memory is dead. It's gone. It's gone. And reliving it constantly, I don't know. It shows desperation, I guess. I hope nobody's offended. But it shows desperation. Desperation for something to hold on to cling to. Right? And I refuse to participate in this anymore because it's just so pathetic. Pathetic. Right? When I was younger, this is all I did. Nostalgia. Immersing myself in past memories that were better. Because in the past, we were all happy. All our family members and loved ones were around us, and we had a blast, and everybody was there, and they were healthy, and we just had so much fun, right? And now, some of them are dead, some of them are sick, etc. And that's not a pleasant thing, but it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. And I don't go back to the past anymore because it's over. It's over. It doesn't matter if it was a good thing or a bad thing, all of these memories, I have divorced them. I have erased them and I have thrown them in the trash. Because I do not need nostalgia anymore. Right? I do not need nostalgia anymore. I do not need to, jerk off to the first moment that I watched, I don't know, the first episode of Dragon Ball Z. Yes, I was fucking crazy happy when that happened, but whatever, it's over. That moment happened then, and that's it. The chapter is closed, and I moved on finally, right? Right? Nostalgia in minimal doses is all right, whatever, right? But not to this extent, not to this exaggeration, this aggrandizement of every little banal, trivial thing, right? Of childhood or whatever. Remember when we went to the movies, we snuck in the movies and we watched Back to the Future, right? It's over, right? It's over, right? And I guess the reason I'm so harsh, why I'm making these videos, it's like I'm talking to my younger self, I'm not attacking anyone. If I'm attacking anyone, it's my younger self. Because my younger self, boy, my younger self was lost. Lost. And the only way to handle disappointments and, hardships and, just sadness and depression, the only way to handle all of these things was to relive the nostalgia of previous times that were happy, right? And it did not help me in the long run. It did not serve to improve anything. Actually, I think that it had a lot of negative effects, this nostalgia trip of mine. It kept me trapped in a bubble. It kept me trapped in the feel-good, in the feel-good opium, and life just passed me by. Every aspect, every prospect, every opportunity just passed me by. Years went by, and I was still trapped in my mind, fapping to, I don't know, remember when we were 14 and we did this, and oh boy, remember when we got drunk as teenagers, right? Right? And the real shit that matters just went by, and I didn't pay attention because I was adrift in the nostalgia immersion, right? That's not a good thing. Because of this, I was a late bloomer, and I wasn't as mature as I should have been on account of my age. I was extremely immature for my age, a mindless buffoon. Because I kept, whenever something bad happened, I kept on going back to nostalgia, in order to retain, sanity, to function, right? It's never, it's never a good thing to rely on on things that happened already. It's not a good thing. Your childhood is over. Be done with it. I know you had a lot of time. Remember the first time you lost your virginity or whatever, the first time you did this or whatever. It's over. It's over. I'm not trying to denigrate those memories, but they're over. Move on. In the long run, I think this is how people grow up in every way possible, right? Your childhood is over. The memories, although they are wonderful, they have to be pushed aside, right? They have to be pushed aside. And this is it, right? You cannot rely on the ghosts of the past, right? You cannot just rely on ghosts all the time. you know, that time when you were just in a perfect bubble of happiness. In your teenage years or in your childhood or in your early 20s, I know it was wonderful. I know you want to go back to those simpler times when you were happy, but it's over. It's over. You have to face the facts. You have to accept the truth, you know. Face the music and just, I don't know, grow up and move on with your life. You know, and the reason I'm making this video is because I needed somebody to tell me this when I was, you know, when I was addicted to nostalgia, and there was nobody there, nobody cared, and maybe this video will help somebody that's young who is suffering from nostalgia, right? This is coming from somebody with experience. I wish somebody told me this when I was your age. Nostalgia is not a good thing in the long run. I know it feels good. Sometimes feeling good is not recommended. I know this is outrageous to say, right? Sometimes you have to move on with your life, right? And the fact that so many adults nowadays, doesn't matter the age group, the fact that most adults today, you know, just engage in the most childish thing possible speaks volumes to the level of nostalgia that is prevalent everywhere, right? All of this stupid nerd shit, you know, fucking 50-year-olds playing D&D or whatever, right? It is because they are trying, even unconsciously, to relive moments of the past that were better in every way. Because to me, there is no real explanation, right? I used to love a lot of childish things back in the day. And if sometimes I try as an experiment to do certain things, like play a video game or watch a show, and it leaves me cold. It leaves me empty inside because I don't need the happy feelings of the past to survive. I don't need them anymore. And because of this, all of these juvenile things, they leave me unimpressed and uninterested, right? It's over. I'm done with these things. I've moved on to better things, right? And so should you. Maybe, okay? But if you want to support your boy, I got a few books on Amazon. The link will be down below, okay? Thanks for watching. See ya.